No green screen intro today, guys. We are going to do some sharpening. Got my sharpening apron out. We're going to do a tip repair on this very expensive NCC knife. We'll talk about it. I got everything opened up because it's kind of a warm day. So let's get this turned around and get started. So we are going to do a full sharpening and tip repair on this NCC Knives BBM V2 in Nitro V. Now, this is a very expensive knife. Dylan Mallory is the one that sent this to me. He needs it fixed. There's a couple things we're going to fix. We're going to fix this weird spot here that I think maybe he was doing some cutting and screwed some stuff up, but also the tip has been knocked off of it. And I believe that Dylan wants me to do an aggressive stone wash on this to try and make these handles not quite as slick. So we're going to do the full resharpening on this. I'm going to take you guys along with me for the entire journey. Don't mind the difference in lighting. I've got the garage door open because it is a nice warm day here. And you might have some weird extra noises that you're not expecting. So we are going to get my stones out, get everything set up, and crack into this. Just in a minute, we're going to get this set up in the overhead so that you guys can see this from above. Okay, guys, so the stones I'm going to be using are my my diamond stones here. We're going to use this plate. We'll be using these Vinev stones, which are really good. I have two different types. I have these flat ones like this, and I also have these longer ones. And the reason I have them all out is it just depends on what's going to be more comfortable while I'm sharpening this knife. I may switch in between. These ones have a different feel in hand. I also have a couple of my Matrix diamond stones. They leave a little bit different of a finish. And I believe the final finish we're going to do on this Shapton Cream Melon. This is a Shapton Ceramic. This is the Melon. So this is a ceramic whetstone. So this is their fine. This equates to about 8,000 grit because I just think that that's going to be a good finish on this knife. So I'm probably going to speed a lot of this up. I will tell you that there are a couple of challenges with this knife. When we did the Norseman here a few weeks back, we didn't have to do a tip repair, and so all I was doing was basically just redoing the edge. And so the edge from side to side, I am going to have to take a significant amount of material off the front of this knife, which means that the first thing I have to do is move this forward. So I'm going to have to sharpen up to here, or I'm going to do this part first and then have to bring this back up, because as you can see, I want to terminate that right there at that thick spot. So I'm going to have to bring that point where those two edges marry and line it up with that, which gives you a little bit more of a challenge when you have a defined spot where it's supposed to be. The nice thing about it is it's not there now. A lot of knife makers have a problem with that grind, so they'll put this in the thick spot here and then not marry the point. I think it's just better just to grind it flat and then just do your edge. It just depends on the maker. Not a knock against Nick. This is an amazing knife. I just feel as though if you're going to do a Tonto, you should be able to do it right. So let's go ahead. I probably will speed up a lot of this once we get started, but let me go ahead and get everything set up the way I want, and then we'll get kicking. So something I didn't mention, I definitely recommend, and I had them here, I just didn't have it. I definitely recommend having 2 tubs of water. One stays clean, one is for dirty. It helps prevent some of the grit contamination that you might get. So we're going to have to start on this. Now, as always, there's a little bit of soapy water in here, just enough water, just enough soap in the water to break the surface tension so that stones don't load up. We're going to make sure that this is nice and clean. I cleaned this just a few minutes ago with a nice hard stiff brush and some Barkeeper's Friend. We'll make sure that stone is nice and wet, and we're gonna get started. Now, I haven't 100% determined which way I'm going to do this yet. I think we're gonna start, and I think I'm gonna start on the tip so that it's not so sharp. This knife is not real sharp at the moment. So we're just gonna have to go ahead and just start removing some material here evenly from side to side. And that's the big thing about this, is being consistent. So I'm going to wind up setting a new edge on this as I'm doing this, because you can see that that's got a spot where it looks like whoever did this got into the grinder a little heavily. You don't want any pressure on your stone. You want it to just do all the work. So So this has a radius to it, so I want to maintain that. So I want to work as evenly as I can, but I also want to focus on specific areas that I have to remove more material, which means that I'll do a couple spots and I'll work in one spot and you might see some facets, but then I'm going to try and do some sweeping strokes. And what that's going to do is that's going to marry that back in or remove that material and then just bring all of that back together. So this is Nitro V. It's going to cut fairly well. I don't think we're going to have a problem with it. So I'm probably going to speed you guys up right here and bring you back when I get closer to knowing what I'm going to do next. So see what I was saying, see how far back that secondary point now is from where I started. I'm gonna have to remove a little bit more material here to marry it back to here because these edges are not quite consistent. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start removing material here to try and move that up so I don't have as much work to do on the back side. And plus, there's an inconsistency in this edge. I'm not sure if it's a factory thing or if it's something that maybe Dylan did on his own, but that's where we're gonna go from here. I'm gonna go ahead and get that started. I'm gonna speed you up right here. So as you can see, just that little bit, and we've got that pretty much married up right at the line right there. That's where we want to be. I do have to do a little bit more work on this to remove this tip. It's going to be a game of going back and forth and back and forth. And so you can see sharpening a tanto is not the easiest thing to do, but if you take your time, and like I said, I still have a little bit of work to do on this. If you take your time and practice, you can do it pretty well after a little bit of work. Now, the way I sharpen is different than a lot of people. I do put the stone in my hand. I think it gives me a little bit more control, and I can definitely feel that I've got my angle where I want it. I can feel the interface between the knife and the stone so much better than I can when the stone is on the table. I can do it that way, but this is my preferred method because I can feel any weirdness in that, more so on finer stones. But it's reached a point where I do it this way and I have really good success with it. I have good consistent edges. Very rarely have I ever had a complaint from a customer, and most of the time was because the customer was not clear on what they wanted. So as you can see, we no longer have that weird shiny spot that we had here in between. I think there was a low spot, and you can still see there's a little bit of a low spot. I think that's in the blade, and I think that has to do with how the grind comes up along the milling lines. So we might have a low spot there because of a milling line. So I'm going to speed you guys back up. I'm going to do this back and forth until we get to where I'm ready to start transitioning through the grits. So we have pretty much reestablished the tip on this knife. Now we're going to refine some of these lines as we continue, but this is a very, very coarse edge off of that Atoma plate. So we're going to work our way through the grits now. We're going to start, I think these ones are going to be the ones I start with, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to knock this really coarse edge off on this fairly coarse stone and work my way up to the grit. Probably finish on this 1100, which is a diamond matrix. And the diamond matrix is nice because it gives you a very good finish, and then that is going to allow me to go all the way up to the 8000 on this ceramic. So let's go ahead and get started on that. Like I said, I do absolutely recommend that you have 2 basins, so as you're sharpening, so you don't get, these stones do break down a little bit and you will get some of the diamond grit coming through. And the best idea is always to wipe your knife off between stones really well and put these, rinse these in a different pan so that you're not getting grit contamination. And that way you can rinse this off, then put it back over here and start back through if you need to. So in all honesty, the way it should work is I should take these stones, get done with this stone, put it in that basin, and then just take those out. And then I can wash these stones off and dump these basins out and then start fresh on the next knife if I was going to do more than one knife. This absolutely has to be cleaned up. There's a lot of material that this has removed, as you can see. So let's go ahead and get started on that. So we start on this Veneb stone. This is a little less aggressive than the one we just came off of. The nice thing about this, these are 2-sided. This is listed as about a 100 grit, which I don't think it is. I think it's actually a little less than that. And then this is a 400 grit, 600, or I'm sorry, 100, 400, 800, 1000. And then from the 1000, we're going to go to this 1100 diamond matrix, which is a much finer finish, and then finish on the ceramic that we've got over here, the Sharpening melon. So the nice thing about these Veneb stones is they respond very, very well to a nice coarse or hard Naguta stone, like this one that came with the doll strung stones that I do still use for a lot of stuff, but they respond really well. You take that material off, but they don't seem to wear really fast. That's one of the problems with some of the other diamond stones that are like the matrix style. These wear out relatively quickly. As you can see, this stone does not have a lot of material left on it. So this might be the last time we sharpen with that. So like I said, we're going to get started on this. You can hear it's a little bit less aggressive of a stone. So that's just going to refine that. It's going to refine that edge down. You can see these cut really well. You can already see it starting to build up a little bit of the steel coming off of the knife is already starting to show on the stones. So these don't necessarily build a slurry like some other stones do, but you do get really good response to them. So all we're doing here is we're just refining this grit pattern, but we still are on an aggressive enough stone that we could change our edge back and forth. So that's something you got to be careful of. This is not honing. We've simply went further up. Now I can correct any issues that I might find. Like if I find a spot that I can still do some work on, I can definitely do it on this stone here and here, not so much on this stone, maybe here on the coarser side, but once you get over to this finer side, not really at all. So let's go ahead. I'm going to speed you up for the rest of this stone and bring you back when we start moving up the grit. right, we're ready to start working our way up through the grit. We're going from the very coarse to a less coarse. These stones cut so quickly. I'm glad Jared had told me about these, but these were a gift to me from one of the channel members at one point. They were still out there, Mr. Smotherman. I do appreciate these stones. They are very, very good. They cut really aggressively, and they do a good job. So we've fixed the tip repair. We've gotten rid of the weirdness in the blade. I'm just refining the marriage point here. This is a very soft steel. This is Nitro V. It doesn't take much to remove a good bit of material. So I'm trying to be gently going back and forth between these two to maintain this where I want it, so that I don't have to go back at all as we get up into the grit. I don't want to have to step back down in grit. It always sucks when you have to go back down. So yeah, let's speed this up, and when I get ready to move to the next stone, I'll bring you back. So I just finished with that stone, and I just wanted to show you what I was talking about how well these respond to a nice Nagura stone. You can see here, right there, that's all it took, and we've cleaned all of that material out of that stone, and it's basically, that's all it took, and it's ready to go back to start working on the next stone, on the next knife. So we got that done. We're going to work our way up through this next stone and then to this final stone here before we move on to the finishing stone. So we're going to work here and just keep refining that back. And you can see, even though that's a very fine stone, it still cuts really aggressively. So you can see that's a fairly fine edge, but it still is cutting nice and aggressive. That is the nice thing about these stones. Even if you get up in the higher grits, you don't have to worry about like spending forever on it. I recommend them. You can get them on Gritomatic. These are the Venev diamond stones. There's other diamond stones out there that some people like as well. I just think that these are about some of the best ones. The only thing I will say is that they leave a black coloration on the knife sometimes as you're transitioning through and as you're sharpening. It's a little bit of the resin that, like, I don't know if it's phenolic or what, but the resin that binds the diamond does have a tendency to leave a little bit, especially on like a stone washed blade. So we're going to go ahead and work our way through this stone. I will bring you back when it's time to start moving up again. So let's go ahead and get in on that. So now we're going to move on to this 1100 grit diamond matrix stones. Now these are different. These are a lot different. These are a lot more like an actual water stone than the stones we've been using up till now. They actually do break down a lot quicker. They dish out, but these things leave you one of the best finishes. This 1100 grit is one of the best if you're finishing at 1,000 grit, this is probably one of the best stones for that. It leaves you such a very, very good finish on that. And typically this would be where I stop, but I'm curious. I may have to, after this video, go back and take this back down to 1,100 grit. But I want to see how this feels coming off of that very, very nice ceramic 8,000 grit Sharpening. I haven't had a chance to use it on this steel yet. Everything else I've done on it has turned out very, very well. It is not a diamond, but it is another one of those stones that you can do much, much harder steels on because it is a ceramic. So ceramic and diamond are the things that you're going to want to be doing your harder steels, like your super steels and things like that on. So, but you can see here, even at 1,000 grit, look at how that stone is cutting. I will say these have a tendency to load up and they don't last anywhere near as long. This is my third 1,100 grit stone in the diamond matrix stones. And that is still my original set of the Neb stones. But you can see this does cut really, really well. And we're just about to the point we're going to move to that ceramic stone. So I might have to move everything out of the way because that's a big stone. So let me take a look at this. Do a couple of burr removal passes going on each here just to make sure we removed our burr, because you don't want to break off on your stone. And you can see this water is starting to get a little cloudy and dirty. That's because we've got a lot of metal and some diamond and some materials in there that you don't want in your clean basin for your stones that you're getting ready to use. Stones you've already used should have a separate spot. That is just one of the little things that you can do to make your life a little easier. As you can see, we've married that point back up. We got rid of the screwed up tip. We have an actual good, decent tip on this knife. Married that point back up on both sides. They are even and consistent with each other. I don't know how well you can see it going from side to side, but I can. So let's go ahead, pause this, break out that really nice stone, and do the final finishing passes. So something I forgot to mention, all these stones are splash and go. These are completely impregnable. These diamond matrix stones and the Neb stones are completely impregnable, so it doesn't hurt them for them to stay in water. But some of your other stones, like a Naniwa Superstone and things like that, you don't want to leave in the water. These are all splash and go. This is not soaked. I simply just put some water on this and it's ready to go. These, it doesn't hurt them. The only reason I keep them in a basin of water is it just keeps them ready, so I don't have to do a lot of spraying and splashing and stuff like that. But yeah, absolutely, you do want to get these back out of the water because this is aluminum, and if there's any metal other than that in there, they will get a little bit of corrosion that starts to build up on the aluminum plate that's in there. Same with these diamond matrix stones, especially if they're steel, and you don't want to leave them in the water much longer than just the length of your sharpening. So let's go ahead and get this stone up here. Nice thing is this is a very, very aggressive stone as well. It's nice and light for as big as it is. And these Sharpenings just cut. Look at that. Look at that. Already you can see how much material it's removed. Now with that, that diamond matrix stone, being such a good stone, it leaves you a good finish to come to here. Typically, I would not go from 1,100 grit to 8,000, but you can get away with it if you have stones like this 8,000 being very aggressive, as you can see, and the 1,000 being such a fine finish by the time you get done with it. So I'm not putting any pressure on it. These Sharpenings will, they're not like a fired ceramic like you see in a Spyderco ceramic. These are much more akin to a water stone, so you can actually scratch these. They will wear out a little bit over time, so you don't want to do any aggressive pressure on this. I mean, you don't want to do that on any stone, but on these you can actually damage the stone if you do that. So as that starts to load, I'm going to move to the other side. We'll just do a couple passes here. and then we'll see how this looks. I'll clean this up. We'll see how everything looks, and we'll make sure we didn't miss anything that we need to go back down and touch up on more aggressive stones. When you get into higher grits, you can find things that you've missed. You will see scratches and scratch pattern that maybe you did not get all the way out, but that looks really good to me from where I'm looking at it. A couple more passes on this stone and we will be ready to go. And I'll do just some final burr removal, and then we'll strop just to get a final, just to make sure there's no burr left. Sometimes you'll find burr, and I'm going to show you guys another trick that absolutely can come in handy if you are sharpening. So let me go ahead and speed you up. I'm going to do the final finishing passes on this, and then we'll come right back. So done on this stone, and I did something I forgot to show you guys. This stone as well does a really good job of responding to a Nagura stone. So you don't want to leave that metal in there, especially if it's something that could rust, that can ruin the surface of the stone. Just take your Nagura stone and just give it a quick cleanup. And you can see here after that cleanup, we've got a lot of material in here. That's why I said have two basins, because now those stones that are in the clean water, if I needed to do another knife, they're ready to go, and I don't have to do a lot of cleanup. I just need to clean these up and then rinse these and rinse out the basin, and then we're ready to go. So another little trick, you can use just a leather strop or something like this balsa that's got something loaded in it. This is loaded with about 3 micron, I believe, diamond. But you can also, if you want to make sure before you do that, that you have removed your burr completely, one of the things that I learned a long time ago is you can drag your blade through a cork. So if you got a friend that drinks wine, have them save their corks for you, and you can just pull that through, and what it'll do is it'll break off the the burr that would be left. You can also use a piece of hardwood. Murray Carter for years has talked about that, about knocking your burr off on a piece of hardwood. So wine cork works as well. It's another thing that he recommended. So just a little tip. So we're going to go ahead and finish the stropping on this and then do a quick paper cut test with this. And then I'm going to decide whether I'm happy with it being at 8,000 grit or if it needs to go back down a little bit, maybe back down to that 1,100 grit diamond stone, which is a good finish, but still is fairly aggressive. So it's a good middle ground. So let me grab a piece of paper and we'll do a quick test. But before we do that, we want to make sure that we've made it all pretty on the strop, because why have a pretty fine, decent strop. So you can see, fixed the edge issues. We've married that angle back up at the thick spot where it was supposed to be, repaired the tip. We got a beautiful edge on that. Let me grab a piece of newspaper and do a quick paper cut test. All right, got a piece of newspaper here. Let's do a quick paper cut test. Yeah, you can see, even at 8,000 grit, that is a really, really good edge on that. It's cutting really well. I like newspaper. It's going to tell you if there's any flaws in your edge real easily. If it will focus, that was at the wrong angle. So yeah, really, really good end result on that. I'm really happy with it. Sorry, I can't ever cut on, at any rate, it's nice and sharp. I'm gonna do some final thoughts, send you out about your day. Let's take a look at that beautiful edge on that one last time, and let's do some final thoughts. Send you back out about your day. So got everything cleaned up. I'm going to get this back out to Mr. Mallory. Hopefully he's happy with it. There was not a lot of issues with the sharpening. If you've got a really expensive knife that has been damaged, like the tip's been knocked off or something, reach out to me. I may take on that project. I'm not doing the day-to-day sharpening. Like that's all that sharpening right there is going to have ruined my arm for the day because of the nerve damage. But if you've got something like a Norseman or something like this BBM V2, very expensive knife, I would hate to see you send it to somebody that may not be up to the task. So just reach out to me, let me know. But if it's just something like a day-to-day user knife, I'm going to tell you no. So with that being said, guys, you guys know what to do. Coffee Brand Coffee. I may throw an ad in. I don't know yet. I haven't done the edit. But they are a sponsor. So is Tempered Trail. I got the Amazon store down below. I did open up a a Discord for everyone so that everyone can go in and hang out. So if you're interested in that, there'll be a link in the community tab. I'll make sure I keep notifying everybody about that. So with that being said, guys, I love you all. Keep it clean. I'll see you in the next video.